It is the dead of winter. The roads can be slushy, icy, or just plain impassable with whiteouts and drifts of uncleared snow. But we're Canadian, so we know how to drive in such weather, right? Not so fast. Constable Sean Shapiro of the Toronto Police Service, known to more than 500,000 TikTok users as the face of @TrafficServices, sees signs all over the place that Ontario drivers could use a few pointers. And he's here in our studio to share some of those. Nice to meet you finally.
Nice to meet you too.
You're a bit of a big star. I guess you know that.
I've heard rumors.
Okay, let's start with this. We're Canadian. We should know how to drive in the winter. Do we, in fact, demonstrate on a daily basis that we take added precaution in the winter because we know it's dangerous?
There's a lot of people who are fantastic drivers, and there's a lot of people who think they are fantastic drivers, and there's a big divide between them. We tend not to drive appropriately for the weather conditions. We don't slow down. We don't give ourselves that extra time we need to be safe, and that causes a lot of problems on the road.
What do you see more than anything else?
There's an overconfidence with four-wheel drive vehicles, all-wheel drive vehicles, where people think they can just get up and go and they're impervious to the elements because of it. We got news for them. Four-wheels slide when you're trying to brake just as well as two-wheel drive vehicles, and that's a major thing.
When it is snowing outside, I always find it amazing in this town. Half an inch of snow and people forget everything. They forget how to drive. What should they do even before they get into the car to prepare themselves for a little bit of sprinkle?
Well, aside from the fact they should be making sure that their vehicle is in good shape, you know, that all the snow is cleared, their windows are clear, that's a huge problem. They should be ready to go. They should be confident that they're safe to drive. Whether it's be that they've rested, that they're not impaired by anything, and they should know where they're going. Being totally reliant on a GPS is dangerous. Not being ready, having at very least a basic understanding of where they're going, could get them into problems. Last-minute lane changes, last-minute turns, those are things that don't mix well with slippery weather.
Salt, shovel in the car, necessary?
Well, I actually have a list of things that you should always keep in the car, especially in the winter. And I'll look at that right now. It's a cell phone and charger. People forget that batteries go dead. And if you have a cell phone charger or a battery backup that's independent of the vehicle, even better, because you can take it with you when you go to get warm somewhere else. A blanket, extra warm clothes, food and water. Water obviously will freeze in the winter, but having something there is better than not having it at all. But flashlights, batteries, first aid kits, jumper cables, road salt and kitty litter is a good suggestion.
Kitty litter?
Something that you can put under the tires to get traction.
Right.
And you'll take what you can get. If you can get salt, that's great. But having even a small amount of it is better than not having it. And then just your obvious stuff of ice scrapers and snow brushes, incredibly important. Matches and a candle. If you can't create heat anywhere and you're stuck for a long period of time, these are things that can keep you warm.
What percentage of drivers, based on your experience, would you say come with those, what do you got there, 13 items in their cars?
I would say 99% don't.
99% don't.
I am guesstimating, but the truth is I don't even carry all of these things in my car because I live in the city of Toronto, and I find that where I'm going, I'm not generally going to need all of these things. But it's best practices to have it, and if you can do it, great. I've got friends who are really diligent, and they have all this and more. You know, they drive all the time with boots that are capable of keeping them warm when they're digging through. They have a change of clothes in case they're out trying to dig their cars out of a ditch, and they get wet, and then they're still waiting for help. And you hear about people who are waiting for a long time for roadside assistance.
That's really planning ahead. That's impressive. If you have an electric vehicle, should that list look any different?
Not really. Electric vehicles, something that many people don't understand is that their charges and range aren't what they could be in the summertime. Batteries don't tend to last as long in the cold. So you may have actually more cause to use these. But the good thing with the electric vehicles is they can run heaters until the battery dies.
Should you use your cruise control in the winter?
Cruise control is a funny thing. Older cars especially, you shouldn't, because they don't generally have the ability to sense the slippery nature of the road. And you could actually find yourself losing control because of the cruise control. So it would be suggested you don't use cruise control.
Ever in the winter?
Not in the winter. Modern cars have traction control and all sorts of other sensors working to help you. But at the end of the day, being someone who drives to the conditions, so slowing down, driving appropriately, and staying focused on driving, nothing else, that's going to be the best thing for you.
When I took my driving test 120 years ago, they told me that when you go into a skid, turn in the direction of the skid. Is that still the best advice?
Look where you want to go, and that's where you want to steer. Looking and steering into the skid could actually cause you to spin. So it really depends. The best advice that I can give is if you're slowing down, giving yourself all sorts of space, you're going to avoid the skid. And that's what you want to do. Once you're in the skid, very often, it's too late.
If you're on the road and there's a snowplow in front of you, and you're in a hurry because everybody is, what do?
You don't pass it. Regardless of whether or not you can legally pass it, which is a question, it's dangerous. The road ahead is unplowed, potentially unsalted, and incredibly slippery, not to mention the fact that there are large grooves in the snow. If you manage to get by and don't cause a collision, which you're likely going to, but you would want to stay behind patiently for the nice, smooth surface that they're creating, which is the whole reason they're out there. They're there for your safety. So stay away from them. They're big trucks. They need lots of room to operate. And we hear stories all the time about the large blades that they carry for clearing the snow, coming into contact with cars that are trying to pass it, and then those cars end up being damaged and thrown out of the way. You could be charged for careless driving if you do pass it and it's an unsafe maneuver. So just don't risk it.
Generally speaking, are police officers more on the lookout in the winter for bad driving than they would be in the summer?
I'd say it's no change. We're always looking for people who are looking to make the roads unsafe with their behavior. So whether it's dry and they're going faster, or they're going slower but still being unsafe, we're looking out for that. We have a Vision Zero enforcement team that's out all the time, and they're looking for those who choose to speed, drive aggressively, drive distracted, or drive impaired, and that's regardless of the season.
How about pedestrians? They obviously should be taking extra special caution during the wintertime, yes?
Absolutely. If we're seeing issues with drivers, and then you add the fact that pedestrians are out there, it's just more mix. And we always have pedestrians. We are a city with people everywhere, and it's great. But we very often have pedestrians who assume the car is going to do the right thing or be able to stop, and assuming is very dangerous. They step out onto the road potentially before making eye contact with the driver, or waiting for the vehicle to come to a complete stop. It's incredible how much movement we can get of a vehicle that is not actually stopped, and it breaks free of traction and continues to slide through an intersection. If you're a pedestrian who assumed they were going to stop, that might be you getting hit.
Just yesterday, I was driving in downtown Toronto. You get these stories all the time. I'm sorry. I'm going to add another one to your repertoire. Driving in downtown Toronto, the light turns red. I'm about to make a right-hand turn. Young woman, face in her device, walks right into the pedestrian intersection. And thankfully, I hit the brakes in time, but she just did not take any care or caution at all that if there was a collision between 3 tons of car and her, she was going to lose.
There's a big problem. Pedestrians have a belief that they have the right of way, and that based on that, they can do whatever they want. And there are a lot of safety-minded pedestrians, and a lot of the ones that you've described face into their phone and assuming everyone will save them. They have to take responsibility for their own safety. And drivers have to be paying attention, focused at the task at hand, safely operating their vehicles. Pedestrians have to do the same thing.
Are there conditions under which you recommend absolutely no driving, it's too bad, and if there are, what does that look like?
If there's zero visibility, if the ice and snow and accumulation is just, it's unlikely that you're going to get to where you're going, then why bother? It has to be an emergency. And even then, a true emergency, call 911, have the paramedics, police, fire. They're the ones that will brave the elements if they have to. But, only you can decide what's worth it for you. We don't tell people they have to stay home unless there's an order like that, and that's very rare. So if you believe and you have the appropriate vehicle, and you can make it to where you have to go safely, and it's really that important, then you have to make that decision. But very often we have people who are not used to driving in the weather or not capable of driving. They don't even like it. They're stressed out from it. That's if you yourself have anxiety about getting on the road that day, it's probably an indication you shouldn't be driving that day.
In our last 10 seconds, you ever been in a car accident?
I have, yes, and very recently. I was rear-ended on the Don Valley Parkway a few weeks ago.
Oh, so that's not your fault if you're rear-ended.
True, and fortunately no injuries and no damage to my vehicle, but I have been, and I was in a collision on a police motorcycle a number of years ago, which took me off the road. Someone wasn't paying attention, and that was on dry road. I was on a motorcycle. It took me out of the game. So I'm very, very concerned about traffic safety, and collisions are not fun.
That's the voiceover cop at Traffic Services, Sean Shapiro. Thanks so much for coming into TVO tonight and helping us out with this.
My pleasure.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.